let me apologize for my nails, which are all really chipping right now, which is a great thing to have in a video where I'm talking a lot about a company that focuses on nails. Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. Thank you so much for joining me for this today. Today I'm going to be talking about a product that came in my April Ipsy bag, and that is this Ciate bronzer. This one in particular is the Bamboo bronzer, and this one is in the shade Palm Island. This is my first Ciate product that I have ever had. So as usual in my reviews, if you've watched my reviews before, you know this, but if you are new, welcome, and I will let you know that I talk about the company and then I talk about the product. I will then give my review and thoughts on the product, and I have been using this for a little while, so I do have some thoughts on it. If you want to skip around this video, there are timestamps in the description bar down below, so you can feel free to do that. Let's talk about Ciate, and this is going to be a little, I don't want to say long-winded, but I found it kind of interesting, and I did a little bit of research about the brand, and I have some information about how they were started, the founder, a little bit of controversy, and something kind of funny that I saw as well. So Ciate is a brand that has been around since 2009, so they're about 8 years old. It is based out of Britain, and it was started by Charlotte Knight, who was originally a nail technician and then started this brand. This brand is very heavily nail focused, I want to say. It has a lot of different nail polishes. When I first saw the brand, when I first received the product, I thought, I really recognize this brand, and I was trying to think of what products I had seen before from them. And then I realized when I went to their website and I saw their Ciate nail polish bottles, they are bottles that have sort of a square bottom and a black top. I'll put a little picture of one up here with the little bow on it. And I thought, yes, that's where I've seen it before. I've seen people get Ciate nail polishes and things like that in subscription boxes, and they have some really beautiful nail colors. Their brand identity is about pretty, fun, and fearless. So that is sort of what they are saying they make their products to be, or who the woman is or person who is using their products, what their mission is pretty, fun, and fearless. They talk about their products being highly pigmented and long wearing. So those are kind of the claims they make across the brand about their products. Charlotte Knight seems like a very entrepreneurial young woman. I mean, obviously she started this company, and she started it when she was about 30 years old, which is pretty young to be starting a company that has had quite a bit of success. But reading a little further into some interviews about her, I also saw that when she was 21, she went to Ireland, and when she was living in Dublin, she noticed there was nowhere to get her nails done, no nail bars. So she actually started the first nail bar in Dublin at that time. When you look through their website, it's very well laid out with one exception, which I'll get to in a moment. They have a whole area of the awards that they've won, things like the Allure Awards, that sort of thing. And when you look through, you will see that I think every award except for maybe one or two, and they have won a lot of awards, are specifically about their nail products. Nail polishes, nail treatments, things like that. So they sort of lead with manicure products and pedicure products, nail products, but then they also do cosmetics. They don't have a full range of cosmetics. You won't find primers or foundations or pressed powders. They do lip products, they do eye products, they do some highlighters and bronzers and blushes. And they have one brush, I think a kabuki brush. So they do cosmetics, but not a full range of them. They are cruelty-free, and also point out that they are PETA certified, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I have to admit, I don't know if PETA certifies a lot of cruelty-free products, but I do know that PETA is pretty hardcore. So if it's something that they don't give to a lot of companies, it's interesting to note that Ciate is approved by them. They also say that they try as much as possible to use vegan ingredients, and you can follow up with them to find out which products specifically are vegan. Not all of them are, but they do have some. They also have a page which is interesting and, again, well laid out, about different celebrities that have used their products. And it is big celebrities. It's like Beyonce, Kylie Jenner, Adele, and not only do they point out that they use the products, but they show the picture of them with the product on. They point out which one it is or how the nail treatment was done. So they have that for about, I think, 10 different celebrities. I also want to point out that they do have an affiliate program where if beauty influencers sign up and get affiliate codes, they can get 8% of whatever people sell of their products. So if you do see somebody who is really pushing Ciate, I'm not saying it's not a good brand or anything, but do know that they may have an affiliate code for it, which may color the reviews maybe a little bit. On their website, you can find where to buy their products in a number of different countries. Here in Canada, you can buy it through Sephora, not the entire range. For example, the bronzer that I'm going to talk about today, you cannot buy through Sephora here. I went to the Canadian Sephora site and it's not available, but they do have other cosmetics of theirs as well as nail products. At the same time, you can also order through the US Ciate site if you are here in Canada. Their prices do seem to be Sephora level, but less expensive than some. So it's sort of in between Sephora and drugstore, but closer to Sephora. So for example, some of their lip products are like between $15 and $20, maybe up to $22, $23 Canadian, I should say. And that is a lot, but sometimes in Canada you see lip products that are like $30 Canadian in Sephora. So while they are on the pricey side, they're not as pricey as some. I want to mention something kind of humorous here. When I went to their website, they have the thing that often websites do where they sort of have a rotating slideshow of different new products they're out. So they'll have like 5 different slides rotating about like their new highlighter, their new nail product. They have a really cool looking new chrome nail polish. But what also came up was a page for their velvet mattes, I believe it was. And obviously somebody had put in a placeholder for text about the product and then forgot to take the placeholder out, because this is what comes up on the page, and I'm pretty sure that's not what it's supposed to be here. It's more of a laugh for me than anything else, but also a good warning, and I've learned this myself. Don't put any kind of placeholder text into a document that you would be embarrassed if it wasn't taken out before the public saw it. So while they have an incredibly professional website, there was one little thing that snuck through that kind of gave me a bit of a giggle when I saw it. The other thing that I should mention is I did see a tiny bit of controversy about Ciate, and that came from something that made them quite famous, I think early in their existence. So quite a number of years ago, I think it might have been around 2003, around there, 2013, not 2003. Something became popular that was called the caviar nail, and I think Ciate sort of popularized it because it was basically like painting your nails, and then you had a whole bunch of micro beads, either in multicolors, and once again I'll put a picture up here to show what this looks like, and it made the nails look bumpy and like caviar, and Ciate sold little kits to be able to do this. Now what happened is that beauty bloggers, beauty vloggers, all that sort of thing, started showing different ways you could do this with different products, so you didn't have to buy through Ciate or with what they had on hand, and they were calling it, you know, caviar nails. And Ciate started sending out cease and desist letters to people to say that they could not use the term caviar nails anymore. I mean, I go back and forth on this because if you brand something with your name, like if they were the first ones to call it caviar nails, they're not necessarily saying you can't do the treatment, but you can't call it by their name. But I mean, so much in the beauty community is shared, and influencers do so much for brands that people got really upset about this. And not only that, partway through this controversy, they pointed out that Ciate was not the first one to do this treatment. It was actually done by another nail technician for an award show before Ciate did this. So there was a little bit of animosity at one point between this company and the people that are usually promoting products and the people that you want to sort of have on your side if you are a beauty brand. So let's talk about the bamboo bronzer. When I first saw this, I wasn't super excited. Bronzer is one of those things, I tend to use it with a very light touch of the hand. So what I usually tend to notice are very obvious tones of it, whether it's just way too dark for me, whether it's shimmery, which is not something I'm looking for. But otherwise, there's not a huge variety for me in the way that bronzer is going to look, so it's not like I want to build up a big collection of them in the same way that I would with eye products or lip products, that sort of thing. But I was impressed when I saw this because I thought, okay, this looks pretty nicely lightly toned, and it's also very matte. You can't see it now because I've kind of been using the product, but there was a embossed little bow in there, which is the logo of the company. The claims on this bamboo bronzer is that it is a long wearing and mattifying product. It was interesting for me to read that. They say that there are botanical ingredients in here that absorb oil, so it will last all day and keep you mattified. Now, I do find that I like a matte bronzer because I don't want a shimmer bronzer in any way. I want the bronze to look natural. At the same time, I do find that the areas where I maybe would tend to get a little oily are not the areas where I'm going to have a bronzer. So I'm not sure that having a mattifying bronzer is that important for me. If I get oily, I'm going to get oily in the middle of my forehead. I'm going to get oily sort of in this area and maybe on my chin. And where is it I put bronzer? Around the outside of my face, here and along my chin, like jawline. Those are not areas of my face that tend to get oily. So unless you are somebody who gets very, very oily, I'm not sure that mattifying is something that I care that much about, but being a matte bronzer, in my opinion, is something that I look for. This bronzer actually comes in 2 shades. There is Palm Island and also Star Island. They had swatches of both on their website, and even with their swatches, which they put on 4 different skin tones, which I really like, I had a really hard time telling the difference between the 2 bronzers. I think this one is slightly more reddish or peachy toned, but it was incredibly hard to see a difference. There wasn't one that was obviously lighter or darker than the other or super different tones. So it would be really hard to tell unless you had both of these in front of you. And even then, I'm not sure you would really notice once you put it on your face. In this, there is talc, there is also dimethicone, and there's also pretty close to the start of the ingredient list, cornstarch, which is probably the ingredient that is doing the mattifying. And I'm wondering if cornstarch is their botanical ingredient that they are referring to. In any case, I've not really seen cornstarch as an ingredient that much, or at least that close to the start of a product list. So I thought that was interesting to note. So this is a sample size. This is 2.2 grams. And if you buy the full size of this, you are going to be getting 10 grams. So it's going to be about 5 times the size of this. Or I looked for another bronzer that I had that was 10 grams, and this is a 10 gram bronzer. So if you buy the full size of this, you're going to be getting a pan that is this big, as opposed to a pan that is this big. So just to note the size that you would get if you bought it full size. Because this was not yet available on the Canadian Sephora site, I could only find the American price for this, which was $28 American for this bronzer. I'm going to insert some swatches here so you can see the tone of this bronzer compared to some other bronzers in my collection. Here are some swatches so you can get an idea of the tone of the bronzer. The first one here is the Palm Island bronzer that we're talking about today by Ciate. The one next to it here is the Balm Hot Mama bronzer. Next to that is Model & Co. Shimmer Bronzer. And next to that is the Pure Bronzer that I've also done a review on. In my opinion, this one has the most red undertones. It does seem a little similar to this one, but just not quite as brown, a little bit more peachy or reddish undertones. And that's the difference that you can see between them. Let me tell you my opinions on this product. I think this is a good bronzer, and let me tell you why. I really like the way that this looks on my skin. It is not super highly pigmented, and I did see some people reviewing their Ipsy bags sort of complaining about this not showing up on their skin at all. So I think if you have a non-fair skin tone, this is probably not going to be for you because it's not a deeper color of bronze. I think this is a bronzer that works well for fair skin tones, and I also like that it is not super pigmented. And I don't mean that in a sense that, I mean, it's blendable and it doesn't get on your skin and just have a huge blotch of color in one spot. I do find that with a light touch in here, you sort of sweep it on a few times for me to get it up to the bronze level that I want. So for me, having it be something that is a lighter color, it means that I can have a little bit more control over how it looks on my pretty fair skin. I like that this is not powdery in any way. This is a very, very soft bronzer, and I'll just show you. I mean, again, it's just got a really nice tone to it that, at least on my skin, is not something that is going to stand out as being obviously fake. I think it has slightly red undertones, which is different than any bronzer I've had before, and I really like the tones of this. So in terms of the actual product, I do think this is a really good bronzer if you have a similar complexion to mine. I found it warmed my face up really nicely. I mean, I kind of went under my cheekbones a little bit here. I went around my forehead, and it did warm me up quite nicely, especially it just seems to go well even with just the tones for my hair and my skin. Would I buy this? And that is a hard thing to say, because at $28 American, if you switch this into Canadian and you include taxes and stuff, I would be looking at paying $40 for a bronzer product of this size. I would have a really hard time paying $40 for any bronzer, because to me, bronzer doesn't necessarily make or break my look. If you are someone who has a similar complexion to me and you have a hard time finding a soft, matte, nicely toned bronzer, and you have room in your budget for a $28 American or possibly close to $40 Canadian bronzer, this may be for you, because it is a good product. I do find it to be long wearing. It is very matte, it is very soft, and just for me at least, the tone of this is really nice. I think you have to decide if this is the right value for you, if bronzer is where you want to be putting your money. I mean, for me, I sort of feel like $25 Canadian is going to be the maximum amount I'm probably going to spend for a bronzer, because bronzer for me is never going to change my life. Like the right foundation, the right setting powder, the right concealer, or like some really awesome eye or lip things, those are things that are like impactful and I'm willing to spend a bit more money for. Bronzer is not necessarily one of those things. So it is a good product at a slightly high price, which I am a little surprised at, because as I said, when you see some of their other products, they are priced at sort of lower level Sephora pricing. So I sort of expected this to be maybe $25 to $28 Canadian, which would have made it more like $20 American. So I think it is a good product, but I'm not sure that the value is currently there for a bronzer. So that is my review of the Ciate Bamboo Bronzer. I hope you liked this review. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. You can click on the subscribe button or on my face at the end of the video. And if you receive this in your Ipsy bag, if you have thoughts on it, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if there are other bronzers that are just so spectacular that you will change my mind on sort of my cheapness around bronzers, leave all those comments for me. I love talking with you guys about products, and I respond to every comment that I get. I look forward to seeing you in my next video, and have a wonderful day. Bye.